we were reviewing the controls, the development control plans and the local environmental plans through that process. And the outcome, in short, from the court was that our current controls did work. The development control plan worked and the local environmental plan policy worked as well. However, the development control plan, which is council's policy, needed a fine-tuning with regard to separation, articulation, and also design outcomes, and separation with open space, vehicle access and pedestrian access points. So they're the things where they came out of the first study, block 1 in that area, and the viability issues were positive with regard to the local environmental plan, which is the law, which is signed off by the state government and the minister of the day. And that was a positive outcome. Then we reported that back to council, and the council said, well, since we're doing that, we might as well go up and down the strip along Victoria Road and see what other fine-tuning or whether or not the other sites do work. Because as you know, the site between Cowell and Batemans, which is block 2, has constraints with heritage issues and orientation, and block 3, which is between Massey and Pigwater, these sites there are skewed and they're smaller size in sizing. So we went through that process as well with all those sites. And what came out of that, the consultant looked at the constraints and opportunities for those sites and whether or not the current controls would work in the future to ensure that Gladesville is successful as far as providing more appropriate accommodation and development for people to go into the area. With the development control plan is a policy of council, and their controls imposed by council and adopted by council with regard to the detailed planning policies. The local environmental plan, which is adopted by council but also signed off and by the minister of the day, we call is the law. And those controls, the LEP controls, have have controls of height and floor space ratio. And the floor space ratio is a ratio that is imposed in a lot of planning policy documents where it assists architects, planners, and also economists to understand what is possible as far as could be placed on those sites as far as each footprint and also floor plate. Just to reiterate, so blocks along Victoria Road, blocks 1, 2, and 3 were reviewed in detail, and apart from fine-tuning of the current development control plan, not the local environmental plan, there's opportunity where we can improve access, pedestrian access, car parking, and also separation and private open space areas. What also came from those court matters and also the review by the consultants was the arcade has, through the conditions of consent through the court, the arcade access point is to be retained and remain as is during following any further development or future development of that site and its condition, and pedestrian access point to be above ground, but also car parking for those sites, in particular Massey and Cow Street, to be underneath the subject sites. In other words, not using the right of way. Opportunity there through the conditions of consent and plans approved by the court permits cars and pedestrians to be able to access and exit the sites via underneath their footprint of the buildings. In other words, not needing to use the right of way, which opens up opportunities in the future for block 4. While that was happening, block 4, which is we call the GSV site, the current planning proposal, which with the department was refused, and that allowed an opportunity for us to look at all that site plus all the sites along Victoria Road as a holistic approach, and incorporating all the planning principles and opportunities that we use along Victoria Road for the future. The criteria for that was also the reasons for refusal by the Department of Planning on the issues of the planning proposal put by the proponent at that particular time. And those constraints or issues were the amount of proposed commercial floor plates proposed, which increased the car parking generation, the overshadowing on adjoining properties, but also overshadowing on Trim Place and overshadowing on the school. Design issues and separation and private open space areas and functional pedestrian access points as well. So with those opportunities and the constraints looked at in detail with design principles, the GMU, including the traffic engineer that council has employed, Craig McLaren, and also an economist, together with the urban designers, have reviewed block 4, and there's 4 options in the master plan that are proposed here for council, and we want to gauge your commentary on those 4. I'll run you through those 3 options and talk to them and give you more an insight of what's proposed. Option 1, as you can see on the screen there, the green area is the open space area, which provides access points, landscaping areas, landscape park, a piazza, and also prime urban piazza meeting places as well. There's building footprints there ranging from 2 to 4 stories, and also 2 15-story buildings there as well. As you can see, if you look at the bird's eye view, the northeastern side, it gives you an understanding and appreciation how that all is positioned. Mind you, can I just say, these plans or these elevations or views are block plans. They're not final architectural plans. These are block plans done by architects and urban designers to give an appreciation, understanding what is possible, what could be possible in the future as far as siting, not the final outcome or the final architectural product of any proposed building. It's analysis done by computer analysis, also reviewed for wind, overshadowing, and other state policies as far as when you design for a residential flat building of separation and the like. So there's a few other things that need to be taken on board as far as distances away from certain other buildings, and also ventilation and all these other technical issues that they have to look at. So these are just block plans. So these option 1 provides a bird's eye view of the southwestern elevation, just to give an appreciation how this is sited. Next option, option 2. Like I said, the green area is the pedestrian shared way open space, which also incorporates park areas and also linkages. And I forgot, and sorry, that area there, that green area, provides for 2,980 square metres of open space. And it's important because that was one of the other criteria that we needed to ensure as part of the plan. The current proposed plan provides for only 600 square metres of open space, where this proposed option 2 provides for 2,980 square metres. And I'm going to ask you to go back to option 1, because I missed a crucial point, which again, I didn't mention the square meterage of that private open space area of 4,300 private open space. I apologise for that. That's 4,300 for that option 1. Option 2 is 2,980 square metres of private open space.
Public open space.
Thank you, Marjorie. Option 2, the heights there range from 4 to 2 stories, but also go to 14 and 19. So if you look at the bird's eye view looking northward, you'll see the tower towards the middle of towards Flagstaff Street is 19 stories. You've got a 14-story near Cow Street, and then you've got the 2 stories on the peripheral. And the private open space again is 2,980 square metres. And again, the bird's eye view looking southward is the bottom picture, and that gives you appreciation looking up from Flagstaff Street as well. And on the plans, there's also some showing shadow diagrams to assist anybody adjoining neighbours as well. To go to option 3. This, again, the green open space area provides for 3,900 square metres, and that's the pedestrian access points, the private open space areas. You have ranging from stories of 4, 2, 4 and 6, 2, 4 and 6 stories, and then you've got a 15-storey and a 19-storey building there as well. The bird's eye looking northeast shows you the 15-storey one's near Cow Street towards Victoria Road, and the 19-storey one is towards the rear near Flagstaff Street, just to give you an appreciation of it. And the bird's eye view looking southwest provides you a better view from Flagstaff Street to give you an understanding how the footplates work.
Steve, just to clarify, right, when you've been saying public space, sorry, private space, you mean public space?
Sorry, public space, public open space. Apologise. Yes. Public open space for all those green areas. So I'll just run through it again. Option 1 provides for 4,300. Option 2.
I'll go to the.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. 2,980, and option 3 is 3,900. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Having said that, the analysis that's come out of these options have all depended on the commercial activity for the actual GSV site, and the proposed floor space ratio increase, which is the LEP, is 3.0 to 1, and compared to what's currently permissible is 2.7 to 1. And that is predicated on commercial area of the supermarket of 3,400 in the
500, Steve. The supermarket of 3,500 and 1,500 off other retail and commercial spaces, making it a total of 5,000 meters squared.
That's all options on that, and that was
all options.
Yeah, and basically that is the threshold that if they go over that, there's impacts on traffic, and the viability on that does work. We've tested that out to ensure that if you put a proposal up that the viability doesn't work, it's not worth doing. So we've the FSR, the floor space ratio as is now under the current controls is 2.7 to 1. And let me reiterate that these proposals are all a floor space ratio increase to 3.0 to 1, which is basically, I think, about 10% increase. And that was the analysis done, and that's the current proposals. Marjorie, do you want to add anything, or did I forget anything?
No, that's all good, Steve. The planning proposal that GSV put in before had actual retail and commercial space of 11,200 meters squared, which was a considerable amount of retail and commercial space, and that really made traffic a lot more difficult a large increase of traffic in local streets, and makes access a little more problematic, because contrary to what people might think, especially when there is an increase in residential accommodation, it's the commercial activity in a centre that causes the traffic, an increase in traffic. And so that's why it was quite critical that in the plans that GMU have developed here, that the commercial and retail is capped at 5,000 meters squared. That said, the supermarket at 3,500 is still of a generous size, a little bit more than what is there at present. And from the consultation that Council has done previously, there is a demand for a reasonable sized supermarket and other commercial activities, which could include cafes, restaurants, clothing shops. So that it does become a more attractive centre for people to want to come to visit. And also with this development, there may not necessarily be a greater trade area because of the other centres around Gladesville, which means that the pressure on the local roads may not be as great as people may think. That's not to say there won't be a bit more traffic, but in the traffic analysis that council has undertaken, the size of the commercial and retail and accommodation, the local streets can accommodate such development.
Thank you, Marjorie. And following on from last week's workshops and consultation through Zoom, we are and now will be putting the traffic report up on the website this week. We were concerned about the initial report because it was technical and very hard to understand. So we've rehashed that report into a plain English version and for everybody to understand. And we're putting that up on the website to assist everybody with the traffic analysis as part of these proposals. And a couple of other things that have been raised. What currently can be placed on the subject site on the GSV site is basically current floor space ratio is 2.7 to 1, and number of stories range from 9 to 10. And the GSV proposal was the then same FSR was 2.7 to 1, and their planning proposal was 3.4 to 1, and that was their proposal, and it was refused by the department.
And Steve, can you just perhaps give a bit more of a detailed explanation of what floor space ratio kind of means for the average person that might not understand planning so well?
Yeah, well, appreciate. Yeah, I should have that. It's basically a ratio used to give an analysis on a site. What's the potential for the site permissible? A floor space ratio is basically used in the planning controls, and it calculates a ratio of the site. In other words, say the site is 100 square meters and it's 1 to 1, you can build 100% on that site. So, but then you can build half of that site by halving the floor plate. So the floor plate relates to the ratio of the site area. So hopefully that was a bit clear. But it's a measurement that architects, urban designers, economists, and planners use. So it's a ratio of floor area versus against the side area. So it's a percentage of the side area, the ratio. The other things that came out of the previous workshops were the clarification of documentation. Can be also, you can ring us and talk to us about certain things on technical issues, and we can assist you as well. And we're happy to do that as well as part of the process.
Great. So before we get to some of the questions, because I can see there's quite a few, I'll just show everybody the project page. So I'll stop sharing that screen.
Christy, maybe if I could just come in here while you're doing that. One of the, during the consultation, I think before council did embark on this, was that the community and also the landowners, I suppose, in Gladesville wanted to see, I guess, increased benefit, one of which was open space. So that's an increase in open space, and that's certainly been provided in these options. But there's also other opportunities, you know, to provide community facilities and meeting places. So that, I guess, is part of the proposals that we have here, is there was a desire to have increased community facilities and open space. And so I guess the buildings have been designed to be slimmer and taller to provide less footprint on the ground, so that there can be more open space.
Just to add to the last part, we spoke before that this is a visionary document. It's not the final product. Master plans are not, they're there to be reviewed in detail and for the community to make comment on. It can be altered and changed. It's not the final product where once this goes through and council adopts a plan, a master plan, a visionary document, then we go into the process of formalising this plan into the development control plan, the guidelines for council, and also what other changes will need to be done to the local environmental plan, which the Department of Planning and the Minister of Planning of the day will need to sign off on, and their particular ones on height and FSR. And the other development control plan really relates to policies and separations of buildings and pedestrian access points and all the other things that go into the council controls as well.
And,
all right,
and also, sorry, Christy, while we're on a roll here, and this won't be the final time that the community will get a chance to see these plans. As I say, Steve said, this is just, you know, I guess it's not the start. The start started a while ago, but these are concept plans, and based on feedback that we get, council will then move into refining plans, and they again will be placed on public exhibition, I guess, as part of the LEP and DCP process.
Yes, so there'll be another round of consultations on the more refined design.
Yes,
there we go. Alrighty. So as I was saying, you can get to this on the council's website. There'll be a banner here that says projects. Click on that, click through to the Gladesville Masterplan. On here you can see, well, this is all the sessions that we've done. There's one more on Thursday. You can subscribe for updates on this project in particular. And this is where you can access all of the detailed concept plans that have come through so far. There's also more information about the timeline, the background, and a few frequently asked questions. So this is where we'll put the sort of summarized traffic plans up here. So that'll be there for folks to see. The main thing I wanted to show everybody is when you come here and click on the Participate Now button, it'll take you through to the kind of consultation project page. So along here, this is where you can take the survey relating to this project. So you click on that, it'll just get a few details about you and some things that will really help us figure out what the community is really looking for this master plan. So how often you visit, what would you like to be able to do there, and ranking of things that are important to you. So this will help us prioritize what's important. The way you do it is just drag and drop, and then you can rearrange the order using the arrows on the right there. This is the page where you can also access the ideas map. So I'll launch that now. And this is where you can see all of the comments and ideas that other people have already put on the map. So you just need to zoom in a little bit to see them in a bit more detail. The great thing about this tool is, yeah, it's completely transparent. You can see what everyone else is saying. You know, so there's comments, there's ideas, there's things that people like. If you read a comment, you can upvote or downvote it just down here. And the way that you put comments on is by dragging one of these buttons up the top here. So to make a comment, and you drag it wherever you want to make the comment, and then put in, you know, your idea. And we'll just grab your email address so that if we need to contact you about your idea, we've got that information there. Great, so I'll stop sharing now and we'll get to the questions that have already come out.
Can I just add something else, Christy, that on that project page too, there is quite a lot of information and questions and answers, or questions that, you know, we think
frequently asked questions.
So if people are looking for a bit more information, it is on the website. I think some people haven't, I've heard, you know, haven't been aware of that. So all the there is a lot of information there as well that people can read.
Excellent. Great. So I'll just bring up the comparison page again, because I know that there's been a few folks who have questions about that. So it's probably relevant to have up there while we're asking these questions. But the first question up that we've got is from Mia about how many residential apartments and corresponding occupancy numbers do these different options involve?
I can marginalise this. It really depends on the mix of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom, or even 4 bedroom, depending on the mix of units. The analysis has basically come out roughly at just over 300 units. Let's say 320 odd units for all those options roughly. That's the analysis we've done at this stage, but it's really depending on the mix. We haven't got to that stage yet. We just want to make sure that the overall design footprints work, and we're trying to listen to the community what's a preferable option.
Excellent. The next question is from Kirsten. How many car spaces will be allocated for the supermarket? And maybe with this one, you can talk about the parking overall as well.
There's a ratio in the current control plan, development control plan, of commercial activity, but also the residential unit mix will instigate car parking as well. So depending on the outcome, when they get to the development application stage, they'll need to do that analysis following their designs. So basically commercial and residential car parking will be provided. The entry and exit points for the car parking anticipated from Flagstaff Street, loading and unloading, and also entry from the residential component, also the commercial component. Off Flagstaff that to Massey, that we're calling it a shareway. We want to activate the street, the right of way as a shared way, so people can walk through and walk through from Cow to Massey, and then walk through the arcade, through Victoria Road and down to Flagstaff. We found that a lot of people do come from Flagstaff up and want to get access to GSV site and also Massey. So the shared zone, we call it, is basically for pedestrian access points, and all those sites facing Victoria Road would have commercial activity at the back of them. If I get the cursor, Christy, to help me out with that. So we want to activate, not the back from we want to activate the shared way by having shops not along there, but up where the green, up there, along there, activate, along the follow Victoria Road, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but on the back of the Victoria Road, at the back there, activate all those areas for commercial activity, but also get people to walk through that shared way, and no cars. So all cars will be in basement underground level.
The other point to note on the car parking spaces is there won't be any net loss of car parking. It might be reallocated, but there will only ever be more car parking available.
There's questions before about the council car park off Cow Street on the southern side. That's not, we're not losing that car space. The car spaces are to remain as far as numbers are concerned.
Excellent. All right, the next question is from Mia. Given the scale of the development, how long is the site expected to be under construction? Maybe this one you can also talk about the timing of when it might potentially start.
Oh, they've got a rule of thumb on this sort of scale of development. You're looking at about 18 months for construction, 18 months roughly. It's a rule of thumb. What was the other question you said? The so we're at the visionary stage with this document. So therefore, we have another stage where we need to hear from you and put the controls up, the non-control plan amendments, and also the local environmental plan amendments to the community as well. And then council needs to sign off on that. And then following that, there's a set of controls that anybody that wants to do any work, or the GSV site wants to develop that site, they have their controls, and new guidelines to redevelop the site any proponent can put forward. Having said that, it's really then a development application will need to be submitted. And again, you'll have an opportunity to make comment as well during that process as well. And we can then ascertain exactly number of units, the type of development that would design, and also car parking numbers. One thing that came out of it as well is, forgot to mention, was from this process, we are putting a new clause in the local environmental plan, like some other councils do, about good design excellence, to ensure that not only they put a design in accordance to our controls, but it's a good design that meets the design principles of good architecture as well.
Excellent, thanks. The next question.
Sorry,
did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just sorry, Steve. It might be my computer that's going in and out of it, but it's unlikely that the planning controls won't be gazetted probably until the end of next year, maybe before, but that's the likely time frame. So it's a proponent or a landowner can't put in a development application until those controls are gazetted.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you.
So the next question is from Eileen. Are the new buildings all residential? Or what's the planned residential density?
So we talked about the commercial component of it. Marjorie, do you want to talk about that? Commercial?
It's not. It's both. There'll be commercial and residential in the development. So I guess the first two at the back on I guess if you're looking at the big block, it's probably what we call a podium, a two-story podium. And that'll be the supermarket and the retail and commercial. And then on top of that, there'll be residential development.
Excellent, thanks. So we've got a question here from Kirsten. Each plan has included a 19-story building. This is nearly as tall as the AMP building in the city. Is this height exorbitant for Gladesville? So I'll just point out the first option, the highest building there is proposed to be 15. The other two have 19 towers.
That's right.
And Steve, is it correct in saying that these are just potential designs? This isn't, we're not assessing or kind of giving input into saying this is how it will look, like in this exact configuration?
No, we're just testing. We're just testing an increase in the floor space from 2.7 to 3.0 to 1. That's what we're testing at the moment, and what could be sited on the site, ensuring that we have private open space areas. We ensure we minimise the shadows, and we have adequate separation and comply with today's guidelines with regard to unit development. So this is the testing.
So
getting engaged from the community, what's appropriate.
And it can be a bit of a trade-off, because I understand that 15, 19 stories is a lot higher than surrounding development. I think on the ride side, Steve, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, is it on the Wharf Street's about 12 stories? That's
right, that's correct. 12.
But I guess it's trying to provide more open space opportunities, and then allowing the development to provide that, and the development has to be economically feasible for that to be done. So it is a trade-off.
Yep. All right, the next one is from Ewan. What is the setback to the Massey Street townhouses?
It's probably not been quite determined, but there are guidelines in the apartment design guidelines which would dictate that. There are separation requirements. But I guess those would be further developed when we get down to refinement. But there are controls that exist that control building separation.
Yeah. So perhaps, Gwen, if you have a specific question, it might be better to email us and we can provide a detailed answer.
Yeah, we'll be part of the submission.
Yep. So from Mia, we have a question saying Victoria Road is notoriously congested. Is the higher density population expected to be supported by improved public transport infrastructure? Yeah.
We have been talking to Transport New South Wales. Part of our traffic analysis has come as reviewed that in detail. There's also not only buses, look at the review of the buses and the bus numbers and the times that they operate. But also we've got ferries as well. We're looking at as well the ferry and how they connect up together. So we are conscious about the traffic and the public transport issue as well.
Great. The next question is around shadowing from Rebecca. She's saying it looks like the images on here have the shadows cut off before the cast of the shadow ends. Is it possible to see a picture of these over local streets? So is there an expanded image of these in the documents, or is this the?
If you look at page 19 in the document, there's an expanded version of the shadows on page 19 of the shadow diagrams of the winter solstice and the summer solstice as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So we've just cut these down for this presentation, so you can.
Oh, yeah. There's in the document itself.
Yeah. Excellent. From Catherine, we've got a question around if this is part of the holistic planning vision for Gladesville, how will it integrate with RIDE LGA side of Gladesville? What's the conversation happening with them?
We've in the beginning of this process, when we started off with Victoria Road, we've engaged with conversation planners and on the staff of RIDE. We've also did the analysis of their side. That's why we know how their side's working and how the outcomes of their developments on their side and how they got approved. Because initially we worked together with the development control plan, and we are discussing, and we've briefed them on this. We're working with them, and we've further briefed them on the outcomes of this process as well. And it's integrated with regard to transport, traffic, and also how we the urban design outcomes and the look of the feel of the street and how the finished materials are important as well of the streetscape.
Great. And another question from Catherine, wondering if this public open space counts towards council's overall public space area. Yeah, just questioning whether it's just to achieve linkages in future commercial leased areas rather than genuine open space.
I guess it's a different kind of open space. It is open space. And really it's based on, I guess, what the community has been asking for in terms of, a vibrant town centre where businesses can open on, there can be more cafes where it's a bit more pleasant to sit. So it's maybe not open space in the sense of, being able to kick a football around or something like that. But I guess it's complementary to the open space that exists. But it's certainly there to increase the amenity of Gladesville, because in the shopping centre at the moment, there isn't an awful lot of places where people can sit outside away from Victoria Road. So it's a way, hopefully, of keeping the centre more vibrant into the future and offer more opportunities. And yeah, people will use it as linkages. But I think council, and maybe Beck, I don't know if Beck wants to add anything here, but I'm sure that the community can also, use these spaces for events and the like.
Yeah, so depending on what you negotiate with the landowners, it would eventually be a space that we could use for community events and activations, for programming. I don't foresee any sport or anything like that, but there's definitely opportunities, and we've seen that happen in our neighbouring developments.
And certainly as a way forward, and part of the public benefit that the developer would have to provide, then this increased area of open space would be part of that, because at the moment, under the present controls, I think there's just a requirement for 600 metres open space, which really doesn't offer very much. So the rest of the site would be basically buildings.
Great. We'll move on to a question from Richard. He's saying 300 units and 5,000 metres squared of commercial seems an overdevelopment for the site, given the footprint and the small open areas described in the plan. There are no neighbouring areas with 15 to 19 stories. So I guess that's a comment more than a question.
Or submission.
Yeah. So feel free to put comments like that in the on the ideas map or in your survey responses, or just email them in and we'll consider them. There's another question asking, what are the dimensions of the largest areas of open space in each concept? Trying to get an understanding of how usable they'll be to the community.
I guess at this stage, we just have the total open space, but it does break down actually in the options that I think we should on this page. It does give you areas of, say, a landscape park or an urban piazza, active square and linkages. So it is broken down. And again, these are just concepts and based again on with the feedback we hear, you know, then designs could be, you know, could be amended or redone.
There's a question from Catherine around why isn't there an option to keep the current controls regarding the height and FSR as an option in the consultative process?
So we looked at, that's part of the analysis. The analysis brought to us was basically the current FSR wasn't viable for any development to happen, or any, you know, the communities up there are saying that nothing's happening, nothing's moving up there. They want their commercial centre to be vibrant, and that's the analysis we're coming up from, following the outcomes of this process. Is basically we're at the consultation process of saying to the community the current controls, the FSR, it's not workable, and we need to bring it to a 10% increase to ensure that something does happen and development does happen over there to become more vibrant.
And provide community benefit too.
So essentially, leaving the same controls won't result in any development of the Gladesville Shopping Village area. So hence the need to make it more attractive to developers to actually do this, because council isn't going to be developing this site. It'll be a developer. What we're doing in this process is saying this is the sort of thing that the community would be, you know, would go along with. So we're trying to find out what that ratio is between the height and the open space.
Yeah.
So another question related to the height. Why are the proposed building heights so different to what Ryde's height limits are on the other side of Victoria Road? Are the taller heights being proposed by Hunters Hill Council to make the site more attractive to a developer?
Not necessarily. The rule of thumb is basically smaller footprints, higher the building. So larger footprints, less open space, and less height. So it's the analysis come by the urban designers on their analysis outcome following the controls anticipated proposed. So they're just providing 3 different options, which provide 2 or 3 different type of footprints or foot plates that provide different heights. So there's just options.
Right. The next question is around the pedestrian plan. So I'll just move on to the next slide, which has the pedestrian network. If you wanted to speak to this, Steve.
So basically, like I said, with the arcade currently from Victoria Road, that's a pedestrian access link that's highlighted early in the piece and through the court approval. That's a condition that must stay. So any development on that side, that access point needs to stay. So then you link through to the GSV site. And the other linkages are basically from Cow Street through to Massey and from Flagstaff up through Victoria Road. So they're the prime linkages that we've seen through other studies in the past that people can walk through and activate and access the site. The car parking accessibility is basically from Flagstaff, and the shared way from Cow through to Massey is an important link as well. That, like I said, provides active commercial uses along that strip that interface with the GSV site. We looked at Victoria Road in detail, where and how do we get to Trim Place? So we looked at through the transport through the RMS of the day, where the opportunity of moving lights over to Massey or leaving the lights in Cow Street or putting actual lights in where the arcade site is. But we've done all the analysis and the traffic department says that the lights in Cow Street are an important link for loading and unloading for people to come into the area. And the Massey Street is very hard to manoeuvre and hard to turn vehicle into that area. And the other thing is we are hearing as well that with the Massey Street and the Flagstaff Street, the residents along Massey Street are concerned about the traffic implications with regard to the number of cars. So we're looking at that as well into those traffic generations.
Excellent. All right, we're running out of time, so we'll just get to a few other questions and then we'll wrap up. Got a question from Eileen asking if you can explain the shareway concept again.
Yeah, that's a good point. The shareway is an important link. The shareway is basically for pedestrians to use and to allow for the open space area to be usable and to have shops on either side, similar to other larger type developments in New South Wales. Yeah, along there. So, and it's not for car parking, or it's not for loading and unloading. It's basically for pedestrian access points only. All the car parking and loading and unloading would be underneath the buildings as a subterranean basement level.
Yeah. So that was another question about whether there had been consideration to create a space similar to the Lane Cove canopy with just to set shopping up underground and have a bigger green space.
That could be looked at, but it's a different type of development. There's no residential component of that, and it's that was council-owned land. This is a private-owned land, so there's different variables on this proposal.
Part of the supermarket is underground, so part of it is basement.
The other thing to mention, I think you might have said earlier, is that a lot of the car parking will also be underground. Yeah, so that's one thing to mention. Right, there's maybe one last question from Mia saying the Top Ride Shopping Centre has a pedestrian bridge for the Devlin Street crossing. Is that an option for Victoria Road?
That has been talked about. It's interesting. Can put that as part of your submission. A few persons in the past through the developments we did along the court matters came about where the developer there was suggesting that an overpass to link, but it's not it's the Transport New South Wales road, so that's out of the council's hand.
Excellent. All right, we might finish up with the questions there. So just to say that a lot of this information can be found on the project page, which you can find by going to the Hunters Hill Council website and clicking on the projects banner. That will take you through to all of the projects we've got. Gladesville Masterplan is one of them. When you go through to that page, you scroll down and you can see the detailed plans where we've got the images for all of the options, and it'll detail all the various components of that. It also has links to the online consultation tools that we'd love for you to put in some of these comments. Tell us what your feedback is, what you're thinking, other potential ideas that you have. Pop them on the ideas map, do the survey so we know what sort of things you really want to prioritize. And then we'll take all of that on board and the comments that have come through today and in other consultation sessions, and we'll be doing up a consultation report to go, I guess, to our designers to kind of bring it all together. And yeah, maybe if Steve or Marjorie, you want to explain the next steps on this process?
Yeah, well, we really welcome everybody's submissions, whether you like the plans or whether you don't, and what you would like to see, because I understand that this is a change for Gladesville. As Christy said, your submissions and comments will come in and they will be assessed, and from there a report will be prepared for council on the outcome of the exhibition, and from there there will be refinements to the master plan going forward. But in the first instance, there will be a report to council on the outcome of the master plan.
Excellent. All right. Any other last things you wanted to let everyone on this webinar know? That's will go online for others to also have a look at. Steve, any last comments?
No, thank you. Please get involved. Please put a submission in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, everybody.